Hello YouTube, my name is Zach, and today we're going to be analyzing Wildflower by Park Hyo Shin. Now, if you've never seen my videos before, I just want to quickly point out that this is not a reaction video. I've already watched and reviewed this performance in this recording. My purpose here is to help you learn more about singing by using professional singers as an example. This is a singer that was recently requested to me through my Twitch streams that I do, and I saw a couple of videos of him and I was really impressed by his singing, and I thought he'd be an excellent subject of analysis, and maybe I can teach you all something through his material. If you are interested in requesting something for me to analyze, please drop by the Discord server and follow me on Twitch, because I do live reactions and analysis on there once or twice a week, and I take requests from you, and the Discord server is full of a great community where we talk about voice and we all learn and have a good time together. So I really encourage you to join if you're interested. All the links are down in the description. I'm also offering a free 30-minute vocal assessment if you are interested in taking a voice lesson from me, learning something about singing. Some people have even used the vocal assessment just to talk to me about singing principles or to learn about my teaching, just stuff like that. So please feel free to sign up for the 30-minute assessment. It's completely free on my website. Links down in the description. So without further ado, this is Wildflower by Park Hyo Shin.
달가운 바람에 얼굴을 내밀어 아무 말 못했던 이름도 몰랐던 지나간 날들에 눈물이
Yeah, so immediately, right off the bat, there's so much good going on. Like, this guy was really impressive to me when I first heard him, and I think that this particular performance does a really good job of exemplifying all the things he does very well. Very commonly, when you hear pop singers or contemporary singers in general, you run into this issue of them having this overly, like, super bright, nasal, frontal, kind of like front of the mouth singing sound. And what I really like about his timbre and his approach to singing is that his sound definitely has depth and it has resonance. And it's because the placement of the sound is a little further back. And that's kind of a term that gets, thrown around quite a bit, like placement. What is placement? It's really easy to talk about placement to describe the place in the throat or in the mouth where it feels like the vibrations are occurring. So, for example, if I go like this and everything's very bright, I can feel it up in my lips and like up in the front of my face. But if I do like this, I can feel all the vibration kind of in the back of the mouth more. So placement can get kind of confusing as a term, but in this particular case, based upon the way that the sound is coming out of his mouth, it sounds like the placement is back, like kind of got this affect going on. It's a little darker. Earlier in his career, some of the videos I watched, he actually was a little too dark in the sound, I believe. And over his career as it progressed, it seems like he's made a lot of strides towards balancing out that frontal and that back placed kind of sound. So the usage of the term placement is more related to the way that it feels when we sing. Just keep that in mind in the future if you're ever watching YouTube videos or hearing voice teachers talk about placement. Maybe that helps clarify things a bit.
차가운 바람에 숨어있다 한 줄기 햇살에 몸 녹이다 그렇게 너는 또 한 번 내게 온다.
He has excellent usage of messa di voce, and I've talked about messa di voce in videos prior to this one, and it's a lot to get into, but the idea is dynamic control that you have. So the difference between singing a note or a phrase like this at this volume and singing the same note or phrase at this volume up here, and being able to kind of smoothly transition the two. So like a very common exercise that you will find classical teachers use to practice messa di voce is to simply go like this. and that wasn't perfect, but you get the idea. The concept is that you want the volume to go from very quiet to very loud and back as smoothly as possible. And I personally just did it by pulling the dynamics off a little bit too soon. It's an extremely difficult exercise, and it takes a lot of singing coordination. It takes really good breath management. So anytime someone can sing the way that he is with this kind of delicate softness to the sound, but still keep it from sounding overly airy, excellent messa di voce training. Really nice work. I'm really liking that about him. Good stuff.
좋았던 기억만 그리운 마음만 네가 떠나간 그 길 위에 이렇게 남아 서 있다 잊혀지만 기만 괜찮을 만큼만 눈물 머금고 기다린 떨림 끝에 다시 나리.
So this is really, I mean, just the way that he delivers this stuff is exceptional. This guy is a like one in a million talent. I mean, he's really something. The falsetto that you heard, that, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions. Falsetto and head voice are functionally the same mechanism of the voice. So don't get too caught up in the two terms. Just know that falsetto and head voice can be used interchangeably. When he moved up to the really high pitches, it sounded a little thinner, almost had a more effeminate quality. That's an example of him moving into his head voice or his falsetto. The pitches before that were him using a mixed voice, and I'm sure that you've probably heard people refer to the mixed voice, and the mixed voice is kind of that gap between the modal register or the chest voice and the falsetto or the head voice. So there's kind of a space in between that can do either one. It can kind of be either one, and part of training the voice is learning to kind of bridge the gap, so to speak, between the two and making the transition between the two smoother. He does an excellent job. And I'll tell you this, it was probably 6 or 7 years into voice training and voice study for me before I really felt like I had control over that mix register. And being a baritone, navigating that mix is particularly difficult because of the fact that things are a lot heavier and a lot weightier when you move into that kind of midpoint of the range. So I've done quite a bit of work navigating through that mixed voice, and I can personally vouch for the idea that it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of skill. A lot of my students have that issue to where, you know, you'll do the head voice to the chest voice thing, and it goes, ooh, you have that big long break, like a massive break in pitch. That happens a lot. So it's something that takes a lot of time, you know. Being able to more, you know, smoothly glide through that mix, it takes a lot of work. So it's certainly difficult just to do in and of itself, and it's even more difficult to sing in this kind of melodic fashion like he is and keep it so consistent. Part of his intonation is so good, I think, because he's well supported, which is interesting because he's sitting down. Most of the time I tell people not to sit down when you sing, especially when you're singing stuff that's really delicate, because it takes a lot of breath control. He's just managing so many things extremely well here.
사랑은 피고 또 지는 다 버리는 불꽃 빗물에 젖을까 두 눈을 감는다.
Right there, that little arpeggio, da, 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 that arpeggio, the fact that he was so consistent tonally from the bottom to the top that's really great. Like being able to keep the voice with that consistent tone from the lowest pitch to the highest pitch, and you don't sound like two different voices. It's just a sign of skill. I did a little bit of research into him, like I mentioned earlier, and I saw that he's been through some extremely rigorous vocal training, and it really shows and it shines through when he sings. I think he's done a lot of Broadway roles as well. And he's somehow managed to balance it all out in a way that just works really well for him, because a lot of times when you train for a contemporary setting and then maybe like a musical theater setting or something like that, or even a classical setting, the ideologies clash and things get kind of confusing. But he's done a really good job of managing everything. So I'm definitely a big fan of his entire approach to vocalization. The efficacy of him moving from the low end of the range up into the high end of the range is remarkable, and it really goes to show how much training he's had and how much work he's put into developing his voice. I mean, there are singers, myself included, that work for your entire life to develop that kind of consistency. And I think in his mid 30s, he's really mastered it. I hope that when I'm like 36 or whatever, I'm 32 now, but hopefully when I hit 36, I'll be able to have this kind of tonal consistency that he does. I don't sing this style, but it's an admirable trait no matter what style you're singing in.
어리고 작았던 나의 맘에 눈부시게 빛나던 추억 속에 그렇게 너를 또 한 번 불러본다. 좋았던 기억만 그리운 마음만 네가 떠나간 그 길 위에.
You saw a little bit of that gospel jaw vibrato thing going on there. That's a contemporary singer thing. But, whatever. It is what it is. That's when your jaw shakes when you do the vibrato, that's usually indicative of something mechanical making the vibrato happen rather than the folds themselves oscillating to create the vibrato sound. I mean, contemporary Broadway singers, rock singers, people do it all over the place. It's kind of become a thing, I think, that people teach so that singers have sort of a fallback plan in case their vibrato isn't working very well one day or another. The voice is a really finicky, kind of inconsistent instrument by nature, and it's hard to, make sure that your voice is in the same shape every single day. And the gospel jaw thing, the shaking of the jaw, I don't do it. I try not to teach it, but I can understand why someone would use it in a practical sense if they needed to make sure that a vibrato were a part of their sound.
이렇게 남아 서 있다 잊혀진 마음이란 괜찮은 마음이란 눈물 머금고 기다린 떨림 끝에 다시 나니.
It's so nice how he's moving in and out of that mix voice. I mean, it's the high pitches that have that kind of sweet, delicate sound because of the mix, but he's got it so well correlated to his modal register that when he moves back down, it just sounds smooth and it doesn't sound like there's any change in register. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'm usually pretty critical of singers on this channel, so if you've watched my content, you know this, but there's just not a lot to critique about this guy. He does everything from a contemporary perspective amazingly well. Is just a super skilled singer. I mean, you got to give it to the guy. I mean, it's just really good. So if anyone ever questioned whether or not this is a real performance or not, well, what we just saw is a perfect case of it being a real performance. Like if we listen here, you can see that as he moves his head, the volume of the microphone changes. So this is definitely the real thing. This isn't an overdub. When he moved up into the higher key, I think that he started out the note with a little bit of tension, but he let it go. You can, I'll go back and show you. If you look here, you can see his face get really tight and squeezed up like this, but I think what happens is as he holds the note, he realizes and he relaxes a bit. Watch how the tension in his face builds and then he releases it within the middle of the same note. Right here. Yeah, I think that what happened is he realized that, I mean, from a singer's perspective, it seems like what was happening is he knew that melisma where you move from pitch to pitch really quickly is coming up. And he probably realized that if he's really tight, he's not going to be able to do it. So you can kind of see the tension in his neck and his face release a little bit when he gets closer to that note. And some people make those expressions, that really tense stuff, to be expressive on stage. And, you know, I call into question when people say they do it in front of an audience of 100,000 people that are like on the far away from a stage, you know, like how can they see your face? But in this case, if he's trying to be expressive with his face, like facial expressions, creating tension, it would make more sense since he's literally surrounded by people who are right there next to him and they can see his face very clearly. You know, tension is one of those things that if it's using it in sparing amounts every now and then isn't the end of the world, but if it becomes a core part of your technique, it can really lead to vocal damage. And so one of the most notable elements of his singing is that it's pretty free. There's not a lot of tension. There's not a lot of strain through any of this. All of the high notes are navigated through his mixed voice. And the navigation of the mixed voice is kind of the key to being able to sing in that upper range without straining, without pushing. And so he's demonstrated it very well. I would go so far as to say that this is a clinic on the use of the mixed voice. It's really excellent. Little bit of neck tension on the side you see building up right there. And I mean, it's, you know, again, not the end of the world. He's singing at the most dramatic part of the song. It's just something that you don't want to see creep up in someone singing all the time. At the biggest part of the song, not the biggest of deals, but if he were doing this throughout the whole thing, then I'd say, yeah, this is something that he needs to fix, he needs to work on. You know, some people just get tense when they express themselves. I actively try to coach that out of my students. Some people just do it whether they mean to or not. It doesn't mean that it's good for your voice or healthy for your voice, but it's something that is just a byproduct of singing sometimes. And the best we can do is try to recognize it and get it out as much as we possibly can.
Beauty, love, la la la
I hate pausing it. Like, first time I watched this too, that was like a very tense moment. Like, I'm not the kind of person who tends to get super wrapped up in like the emotion of singing. I'm very much a technician, but like that pause, I don't know. There was something, I don't know, there's something special about that whole moment in this. I think that it was really beautiful. There's a clearly, from what I've read about this, there's clearly a very deep and personal attachment that he has to the text of the song, and I guess that this was just one of those moments where it hit him. If you've never heard of him, never heard this song, I strongly encourage you to look into the backstory a little bit, and it'll kind of give you a little bit more of a appreciation, I think, of where this is coming from, what this song is about, and it's really nice. I mean, just a really heartfelt, emotional moment in the song. And anybody who's watched my videos, who follows my channel, knows that I don't say that very much. So, you know, if it moves me in a way, like, it's probably, I think I could give myself some credence and say that it's probably pretty emotional if it can move me too. So it's just really nice. Every now and then it's good to hear something that's just emotional, that just makes you feel something, you know? Absolutely incredible performance. I mean, just really sensational. It's a change of direction from the metal and the rock stuff that I talk about a lot, but there are beautiful performances in every genre, and I think that this is absolutely no exception. I mean, what a talent. What a really great singer. And having done some research into his career to see where he came from and where he's at now, it's just really amazing. Yeah, do some research on him if you haven't, even if you're not a big fan of the music, because it's a really inspiring and interesting story. And I honestly believe that he is a shining example of what some hard work and dedication and training and putting yourself into your music, what it can make you and what you can become as a result of it. It's just really amazing stuff. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this singer was requested to me on my Twitch stream, and I would have never seen him otherwise. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, I got to check this guy out. He's really good. And I'm glad that I did. And I hope that you all learned something. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. There's some really nice moments in this. So I hope you all enjoyed it. And I am going to put all the links to my Discord and to the Twitch channel and all that kind of stuff in the description. Keep in mind, I do have that free 30-minute assessment. I also do have a Patreon, as all of us YouTubers do. So if you could donate even $1 a month or something, that would go a really long way to helping me out, helping me grow this channel, and helping me make more content for you, because that's the goal in the long term. So that's it. I hope that you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all again next week. Take care. Thanks. Bye.